Now, another interesting and I should say more time effective power pack enhancements that have been made are to the properties panel of Photoshop CC 2020. And you will understand the moment I show it to you. But before that, I would ask you a very fundamental question. What would be the first thing you would do if you want to find out more information about a particular layer that you have selected? Alright, it can be a text layer, it can be a vector layer, it can be a raster layer, it can be a smart object. Which panel would you select in Photoshop? The first thing you would do is you would go to the properties panel, right? Now in Photoshop CC 2020, Adobe has made certain very power packed enhancements to this panel. Not only can you find information about a particular layer that you have selected, there are certain contextually relevant enhancements that have been made, contextually sensitive operations that have been added, depending upon the type of layer you have selected or the type of tool you have selected, alright? So these are some of the common tasks, or you can say some of the most common steps creative professionals take depending upon the type of layer or depending upon the type of tool that they have selected. Let me show you what I mean. Alright, so over here you can see, let's come back to the old image. I have made some changes to it, and you can see we have some layer groups over here. Then we have some text layers and we have some raster layers or pixel layers, sorry. So over here, let's go ahead and select the text layer. So I've selected Harbor Bridge text layer over here, and I'm going to expand the properties panel. Now if you cannot find it docked in one of your panels or palettes over here, go to the Windows menu and you can select it from here. Now first thing you would notice is we have some transform options over here. So if I want, I can transform the text. Alright, I can click this chain or link button over here to transform the text proportionately. Alright, at the same time, let me just go ahead and shrink it. We have access to character and paragraph panels as well. Alright, so this is something I'm sure every InDesign user would love. Alright, this is basically these are the options we spend most of our time on if we are working in Adobe InDesign. Alright, so not only are we able to get more information about the text layer, we are actually able to change the text in real time from the properties panel itself. Most of the contextually relevant and sensitive options are available right there in the properties panel. I have no need to go to the Windows menu and look for the properties or characters panel over here. Alright, so if I want to, let's say, change the font, I can simply click the font menu, and from the drop down menu I can select any font of my choice. Alright, now you would say first thing that what kind of a choice is that? Well, this is just for the demo purposes. This is the last font I will be selecting in my life. Alright, I am never going to use that font in a professional design. Anyhow, so you get the idea. Now you can also play around with the leading, kerning, cracking options. Then again, there are some extra options as well. You can change the font color. Alright, so I'm not going to get into those. Instead, let's go to the paragraph menu. Now there are some paragraph justification settings. So you can left align, right align, center align. You can justify the font. In fact, this would be more applicable in cases of paragraphs and not the character. Then again, you can change the case. So right now it's all caps. I can change it to small caps. I can change it to superscript, subscript. Alright, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to undo the changes. Roll back to all caps. And this is what I was talking about. Quick actions. So these are contextually relevant and contextually sensitive actions. These are the actions that creative professionals take on a day-by-day basis. These are the most frequent actions when you take when you're working on a text layer. Alright, so most often when you want to play around with a font, you want to make some personalized changes to the font, you would convert it to a shape and then play with the anchor points, right? So right now I can straight away from the properties panel itself convert the text to a shape, and you can see we now have access to the anchor points over here. Let me go ahead and zoom in, and you can see we now have the access to the anchor points. We can play around with them. Alright, so if I, let's say, if I select E over here, alright, and I'll use the arrow keys, and you can see I'm making changes to the font over here. Alright, now this is not a font anymore, it's lost its font attributes and properties, it's converted to a shape. But I can tweak the shape to my liking. So very interesting, and some really cool enhancements being made to the properties panel. Then again, you can make certain changes if you have raster or a pixel based layer selected. The options would change accordingly. So transform options more or less remain the same. Alright, so let me just go ahead and hide the bottom layers, and let me show you the transform options. First of all, you can rotate the image from here. So let's go ahead and rotate it 90 degrees. Alright, so let me just undo this, and then again you can zoom in and zoom out the image, transform the image, scale it up or down the way you want. Alright, so let me just go ahead and undo this also. Then again there are some alignment options, so you have those on the options bar as well, but now you have them in the properties panel as well. Alright, there are align options, there are distribute options. I'll just come to them in a while. Then we have quick actions. Now this is something that I really love. Alright, so we have seen select subject, and then we have remove background. Both the options are nested in the quick actions drop down menu within the properties panel. Now you know the technology under the hood. This is Adobe Sensei, their artificial intelligence. So Adobe can identify what is the background, what is the subject, and depending upon the command you are using, it can select the subject for you, or it can remove the background for you. Alright, and it does a pretty decent job. At least I have seen personally 95 to 96%. Much of the heavy lifting is done by Adobe. So let me show you how that works. I'm going to eyeball the layer below the harbor bridge to make it visible, and now I'm going to click remove background with the harbor bridge layer selected. So Adobe is going to run the algorithm in the background, and you can see now my image has been masked in real time and composited to the underlying background. Alright, so this is what we call as non-destructive editing. Not a single pixel has been harmed in the process. We do have the mask over here. If I want to reveal something, I can play around with the mask. Alright, I can hide, I can reveal. Alright, so this is, you can see it's a non-destructive way of working. So I'm creating a mask over here. And let's look at the quality of the mask or cutout that has been created. So first thing you would do is look at the hair, and you can see it has done a pretty decent job. Alright, so I can see some color fringing towards the edges. Alright, but that's beyond the scope of this workshop. If you want to learn about masking and hair masking, I would highly recommend Deep McLean's channels and masking series on lynda.com or LinkedIn Learning. Alright, that is the go-to resource if you're a professional photographer and you want to learn about channels and masking out here. Alright, that is one of the toughest thing to mask. Anyhow, so you have seen how it works on. Now I also have, with the mask selected, I also have in the properties panel access to the mask option, so I can play around with the feather, increase or decrease it. Alright, I can play around with the density of the mask. So I can use the refine edge command that is now renamed as selected mask. I can use color range, I can invert the mask if I want. Alright, you get the idea. So this is basically how you play around with the properties panel. Now another thing is properties panel, it works on text layers, it works on raster layers or pixel based layers. It also works at the document level. So let us look at the document level options available in the properties panel. And you can see we have canvas settings over here. I can change the mode of the image. I can change it from RGB to CMYK or any color mode of my choice. I can play around with the width and height of the canvas. So if I want to increase the canvas by, let's say, 100 pixels, I can go ahead and click plus 100 and plus 100, and you can see 100 pixels have been added to the width and height. Alright, so again you can change it from portrait to landscape mode over here, but the image may truncate, there may be some issues, so I'm not going to do that. Then again, there are rulers and grids options. So if you want to have access to the rulers, go ahead and click the rulers option over here in the rulers and grids drop down menu in the panels, properties panel. Then again, if you want to have a look at grids, go ahead and click grids. Alright, if you want to change the spacing between the grids or the color of the grids, go ahead and click this guy over here, show transparency and game mode settings. Alright, it would launch preferences section, preferences, and take you right away to transparency and game mode settings. So I'm just going to have large grid size, and instead of light I'm going to select red as the color of my grid, and I'm going to click OK to commit the changes. Alright, so this is how you play around with the properties panel. Now, not to forget, there are some other options as well. So if I want, in the guide section I can view the guides or hide them like so. I can lock the guides. So right now if you see, if I am on the image, alright, so let me select the layer, and on the image, when in selection mode, I can select and accidentally move these guides. I don't want to do that. So in that case, what you need to do is go ahead and lock the guides. Alright, so you always have an option. I'm not going to select any layer over here, and I can always go ahead and lock these guides. So now I'm not able to select them or accidentally move them. Then again, you can have dashed guides if you want, or you can have solid lines as guides. Alright, so there are different options. You can view the smart guides. Alright, that is guides when you're moving the objects. You can see guides giving you some hints. Alright, these are basically when you're trying to align the elements of objects. Then again, we have access to some quick actions like image size. Ideally I would be hitting Ctrl+Alt+I on my keyboard, or going to the images panel over here and selecting image size from here. Then you can always crop the image, you can rotate the image, you can trim the image. Alright, these are some document level operations or commands that people use time and again. So some really fascinating changes being made to the properties panel. Alright, I can say that Adobe is going in absolutely right direction. Interesting times, because some 5 years back, masking out an image was quite a headache. Alright, you would take 15 to 20 minutes, sometimes even an hour for complicated selections. But now with Adobe Sensei and basically object selection, remove background, select subject, the life is much easier. Alright, so let's move on to the next feature now. Hello friends, if you really like this segment, then please don't forget to share, comment, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, you can click the bell icon right below this video to be notified about our new tutorials, best practices, tips and tricks as and when we share them. And yes, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest on the links provided below this video. Thank you.